And yet we have the ultimate solution for suffering and death. And that solution is eternal life in a heaven where there will be no more stillbirth, no more cancer, no more heart failure, no more little kids getting knocked into early graves by ridiculous car accidents, but eternal life in the presence of God.
We lost our 18-year-old brother back in October to an accident in our front yard. And we're constantly told, like, oh, you guys might have to move on. You guys might need to kind of like put it in the past. It happened, get over it. And we do have really good days where we get to share his story and share the gospel. But with those good days, there's also some really, really bad days where anger comes out. And I mean, I might get mad at my wife. I might get mad at the family, at the kids. What's your advice and what do you have to say about how to cope with those really bad days that we have, all of us collectively being really close to him after his loss?
All right, I'm really sorry for your loss, brother. It stinks. And that's one of the reasons I'm so glad that in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul writes, death is the last enemy. I am sick and tired of hearing people say, oh, death is just part of nature, so just accept it. No, I don't accept death. That's why we fund hospitals. That's why we do medicine, because we are against death and we're for life. And that's what Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and have it to the full. Second point. All right, wife and brother and family, you've heard the man say, I'm hurting. And at times I'm okay, but at other times I get really angry. Okay, he's been honest, right? He's been honest with all of us. He's been vulnerable. So now we got to be patient with each other, right? We got to love each other through the hard times, and it's a hard time you're passing through. The most difficult day of my life was when my 7-year-old niece was knocked into an early grave in a horrible car accident, and I had to go out to Madison, Wisconsin, where my brother, who's a transplant surgeon at UW-Madison, was transplanting kidneys and livers, and I had to walk with him around a field behind his home in Madison, Wisconsin. And he's pouring out his heart to me about the death of his 7-year-old daughter. And if anybody thinks they got an easy answer for that question, they're nuts. The honest answer first is, I do not know why the babysitter didn't see the stop sign, why she went right through the stop sign and a pickup truck at 55 miles an hour came careening down the road, smashing into the car, sending my 7-year-old niece into an early grave. I don't know why God allowed that to happen. And so therefore we got to be patient with each other. We got to love each other. We got to be committed to each other as we go through these painful, difficult times. The third point is, what's comfort? Comfort is presence. So you being together as a family with your presence is crucial. And even more important is God's presence with you, the presence of Jesus Christ. And that's where all of this talk and all of these answers to all these difficult questions gets real practical. It's not an issue of a good answer to a difficult question now. It's an issue of presence. I need you to be with me because I'm hurting. My loved one died and it stinks. And now all of a sudden faith becomes real personal. Because now it's an issue of, do I know the presence of God? And brother, I'm 70 years old, so you're a lot younger than me, and I'm still working on that. I want to know the presence of God, because it's hard. And I was really ticked when Time magazine came out with Mother Teresa on the cover saying, oh, the woman struggled with doubt. See, she didn't really have real faith. Oh, baloney. Give me a break. There is such a thing as depression. There is such a thing as loneliness, as the snot gets kicked out of you by life. So now we got to know Christ. And I find great comfort that in Philippians 3:10, Paul writes, I want to know Christ and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of sharing in his suffering. Remember, you worship a suffering God who got the snot kicked out of him and he was nailed to a wooden cross. So you can connect with this God. This God can connect with you. He's a suffering God. And then ultimately, brother, we have the solution to suffering. We're going to go through good times, we're going to go through hard times in this life, and you're going through them now, both of them. And yet we have the ultimate solution for suffering and death, and that solution is eternal life in a heaven where there will be no more stillbirth, no more cancer, no more heart failure, no more little kids getting knocked into early graves by ridiculous car accidents, but eternal life in the presence of God. So come on, my atheist agnostic friend, let's go into the hospital. Come on, my atheist agnostic friend. Let's go into the room where the baby lies, whose body's being shredded by terminal cancer. What are you going to do? You're going to wave your fist in God's face and blame God? That's a cop-out. That's misplaced blame. I, as a follower of Christ, will walk to the other side of the bed, and I too will hold that child's hand and seek to comfort that child. But in Jesus Christ, I've got a suffering God who gives a rip about death, about grieving people, who wants to comfort us and wrap his arms around us. That, my friend, is the solution to the very real problem of suffering and death: Jesus Christ.